Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and this is your space for soulful conversations, intentional living, and transformational wellness. Now, today's episode is a dance between movement, mindfulness, and storytelling. I'm so excited to welcome Ricardo, better known as Rico, a brilliant storyteller who bridges the worlds of visual media and movement culture. Listeners, he's the founder of Rico Media Productions and the host of the Why We Move podcast, where he uncovers rich stories from the social dance community. And Rico brings a unique perspective shaped by his fascinating journey from medicine to media. And he's all about showing us how movement isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional, relational, and yes, it's even healing. We are diving into the mindful aspects of movement and dance and how these practices can be powerful tools for connection in this digital age. So, with that, Rico, welcome to the show, and it's such an honor having you with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited to get into the conversation about dancing and movement.
That's beautiful. So, Rico, before we talk about the mindful aspects of dancing, let's talk about your personal journey. I mean, from medicine to media production, it's definitely a bold leap, two opposite worlds completely. So what called you to this path and how did movement become a key part of your storytelling?
That's a great question. So I don't really have a typical story, as you've kind of already hinted at. Essentially, with a lot of videographers, photographers, anybody really who's in media, content creator per se, they probably have some kind of moment in their life where perhaps they picked up a camera out of their mom and dad's bottom drawer of their old house and they just, were infatuated with movies or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, I came from medicine where I was studying to become first a doctor, and then I ended up dropping that and pursuing a physician assistant degree, master's program, and then switched that to nursing, and then eventually gave it all up and pursued media. And it for me, I really started with a knack for wanting to be expressive in myself and artistic. I never really had abilities or skills. I could barely draw a stick figure in my life, and it kind of it felt like I had some disconnection with the world, with myself, with my spirituality, my
Mhm.
culture, and everything around me, and especially people as well. And it wasn't until I discovered dancing back in 2018, no, sorry, 2014, when I first discovered a social. Um, and that's really what led me to media, interestingly enough, and I can explain that more. Is like the first time I ever stepped out onto a social dance floor, I understood what art and dancing and movement was. And I got infatuated. I got really obsessed with wanting to explore that side of my brain that was more creative than analytical or scientific, in fact. And so I like to say that my right brain woke up in that moment
Mhm.
and, led me really to picking up a camera and learning the skill and learning the art of filmmaking and photography. And essentially, unraveled to now 5 years down the road, me becoming having my own media production company and um, producing and hosting my own podcast show. Now here where I just kind of followed my passion, the burning sensation that I had in me to pursue storytelling, and yeah, I'm here now.
Well, that's definitely such a creative journey, such a creative journey, but because often dance is something taken up as a hobby or just something to be, just enjoy yourself or, with your friends or partners or and anyone. But, taken, you have, kind of help us picturize the essence or the beauty of dance and then as a way of mindfulness and storytelling. So what exactly which aspect of dancing was the one which kind of attracted you most?
That's a great question. I
Mhm.
think. again, kind of to what I was saying, like with feeling disconnected, feeling like I was lacking that part of creativity in myself. It the aspect of dancing that helped me see that there was more it was more than just a dance was the sense of connection. I in fact just recorded a podcast episode after 23 episodes in my podcast. I finally am releasing an episode that I call Why I Move. Being the title of the podcast is called Why We Move. I've
Mhm.
asked everybody on the show and even off the show and on the dance floor why they move, but I never asked myself, nor do people have gotten
Mm,
my answer. And for me, it's about connection. It's about the piece of the dance that really makes that stands out the most is being able to connect with myself, connect with the music, connect with somebody else as a partner on the dance floor, and essentially connect with the present moment because it all just brings me back to the present moment. And so that's probably the most surprising thing that I've discovered on my close to decade um, now decade journey of dancing
mhm.
is that I crave the connection, and that's the piece that I care about the most with dancing.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more because you mentioned about connecting with the present moment. When um, because I am such a huge music lover, and when I listen to music or rather sing as well, I'm focused, completely focused. I am not even aware of anything else going on around me. I'm completely dead focused into that. I'm living in that present moment, so I can absolutely relate with that. And that is such a beautiful feeling. You feel the goosebumps in your body. You connect with yourself. You feel that rush, that energy amping up through your body. So it's definitely a beautiful, some of the beautiful moments to cherish. And also, Rico, now let's talk about your podcast. So your podcast, Why We Move, it explores stories from the social dance world. So what have you learned about mindfulness through these stories? I mean, how exactly mindfulness and dance, are connected?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? It kind of cut out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what have you learned about mindfulness through all the stories which you have explored on your podcast, and how does that show up in dance?
Hmm. I think the way mindfulness has shown up is really being attentive, really being kind of the core of what a dance is, because you have to really tune in and drop into your body. And it's something that we don't really do on a regular basis in our busy days and our busy lives, being that we're working nonstop. Our minds are always occupied with something and we're just thinking, thinking, thinking. With dancing, it's a very unique opportunity to connect with your body and drop in, like I said, to be in a weird way mindful about your body, which a lot of people may say like that's not being mindful, that's just being physical, but in a really metaphorical way, it is being mindful, because you're trying to be proprioceptive to everything around you, and not only just through your actions that are outward, but also inward, receiving the music, receiving the signals from somebody else while you're dancing, receiving the feelings and the art that's kind of flowing through your body for you to be able to express. And so it's being very mindful about everything that's going on around you and being able to express what is flowing through you.
That's that really resonates. And there is of course, as we discussed previously, that there is something incredibly mindful about being present with your body, and maybe another person on the dance floor. So do you think dance could be a form of a meditation?
It actually, yeah, definitely. A lot of people have said and have noted dancing as being a form of meditation for them. It's definitely an opportunity to shut things out of your mind.
Mhm.
Um, shut off notifications even off your phone, to kind of bring yourself into what is a meditative state and letting your, senses kind of take over versus your mind. And so I absolutely agree with that statement. It's definitely dancing can definitely be a meditative activity and opportunity.
Lovely. That's lovely. And now let's talk about the visual storytelling part. So, Rico, as a videographer and a photographer, you capture people in motion. So, how do you approach making movement visually mindful and emotionally resonant? I mean, that sounds like really difficult. So, how exactly do you do that?
That's a great question. I try my very best to kind of, I'm going to actually relate this to dancing in a way, but like really being intentional and being mindful of what is being received. And so with visual storytelling, it's not just all visual. A lot of people tend to think of the video or the photo has to be incredible, but it's about what is relayed in the photo or what is relayed in the video that makes the story. And so I think about all the senses when I'm making a video. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I feeling? Um, and essentially bring like and almost obviously you can't really like taste things, but like you could almost even put that in some things, whether it be what does the air around me taste like in this scene per se. And so I tend to be very intentional about the shots that I include in whatever piece of media or content that I publish. It's essentially telling a story in and of itself and trying to incorporate all the senses in because that's really what helps people again be very connected to that story. It's not just visual, it's more than that.
Hmm, that is powerful. That is powerful. And I really, it looks like um, uh, I think people will definitely relate to this because there is an authenticity there, that purity there, and it definitely sounds like you have built a brand around that, purity or that truth. So, any tips for people who feel nervous about being seen on camera?
I actually just answered this question to somebody earlier today. I think the best piece of advice I can give to somebody who's maybe perhaps a little shy on camera is that all it is just unfamiliarity and you just haven't done it before enough times to be really comfortable with it. And maybe perhaps if you still are struggling after, years and years and years, understand that that feeling that you're feeling is probably just nervous or I'm sorry, excited energy versus nervous energy, and just reframing that to be again more mindful with what you're actually feeling and what you're actually wanting to express can actually be a positive thing versus, what you might the story that you might tell yourself, which is you're shy. And so or you're nervous about being in front of camera. I think once you start to change that perspective, you really start to change your performance and your appearance in front of camera.
Hmm. Oh, okay. I think this part is also very interesting and very important as well. So, you have mentioned that dance and movement they can help build strong communities. And in this digital age, when we have all online communities out there, but many of us feel disconnected, we feel lonely. How can we use movement, either physically or metaphorically, to rebuild those bonds?
I think it allows an opportunity to heal um, through literally hormone movement in your body. I think there's a lot of exercise and movement specialists out there that talk about releasing trauma from your body as you move, whether it be through dancing or something that's also movement related but not dancing, like weightlifting, running, swimming, jump roping, you name it. The list goes on, and it really just has to do with shaking things out of your body that are trapped within your cells. And as woo woo or as magical or mystical as that sounds, it's actually proven to be correct in science. And the people who I think move more are more able to understand emotionally and physiologically what's happening inside their body to be able to move through things a lot quicker or a lot more efficiently. And so I would urge folks to try movement literally to just get through that. Much like meditation does and helps you process things, movement is the same way.
I think it can be divine as well, dance or, um, definitely. I think these are definitely some of the most um, effective channels to uh, cultivate mindfulness and kind of, have that spiritual connection with your higher selves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very spiritual, aside from physical and emotional experience, it's a very spiritual experience. Absolutely.
Hmm. Okay, so let's leave our listeners with something actionable here, Rico. So, what are few mindful movement or storytelling practices you would suggest they can all start incorporating into their daily lives? Whether they dance or not.
Yeah, so a storytelling tactic that I think people can incorporate into their daily lives would probably be just a journal. I think that's something that I've discovered over the last few years that has helped me creatively um, be more enthusiastic about my work and even just be able to be more open and share what are things that are going on through, my in my brain and through the lens of my eyes and helps people to relate, even if it's to relate to you or relate to themselves or for you to relate to yourself or relate to somebody else. It's still something that's valuable. Again, kind of similar to the approach of dancing and movement, releasing trauma through your body. It's the same thing, I think, with thoughts. And so, a storytelling, it helps influence your storytelling because you're able to see what's actually going on through your head and piece together certain connections and synapses in your brain to create a well-rounded story.
That is so beautiful. And it's basically intentional living. And it starts with the stories we tell ourselves first. So thank you for sharing that, Rico. And of course, if our listeners would like to connect with you and listen to your podcast as well and explore more about mindfulness through dance or visual storytelling, how they can do that.
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all platforms with the same username and handle. You can find me at Ricardo Topete. That's Rico, Rico, Ricardo, Ricardo, Topete, Topete. That's my handle for pretty much Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, developing a website, which is everything mostly linkable to my Instagram. So the best way to find me is, and all my other platforms, is on Instagram through Ricardo Topete.
Great. I'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. And listeners, that was Ricardo Topete for all of you. And I really feel like we have just danced through ideas about healing, connection, and creativity. And I hope you all are walking away with a fresh perspective on how movement and storytelling can bring us closer to ourselves and, of course, our communities. So, Rico, thank you so much for sharing your light, your story, and your beautiful insights.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you asking such great questions, and I'm um, very grateful for the opportunity to share the knowledge and hope to have inspired people to, yeah, move your body more. It's good for you.
That absolutely. It's both for a healthy mind and a healthy life.
Amen.
Hope listeners, uh, when it comes to mindfulness, I have learned that it isn't just something we think; it is something we practice. And in how we move, how we speak, how we show up, how we think, in anything that we do or we function. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone who needs a little rhythm and reflection in their day. And until next time, keep breathing, keep moving, and keep living mindfully. Thank you.